Hello everyone, Anthrid here, continuing our starting out series. Today we're going to be talking about intermediates, specifically intermediate tools. Here you see the basic weapons we made last time. Crafting in Crowfall is divided into three categories. You have basic crafting, which you can access from anywhere by pressing J. Intermediate crafting, which can be done at general crafting stations, which exist in the starting area beachhead, forts, and keeps. And then you have advanced crafting, which is only available at advanced crafting stations in the forts and keeps, usable only if you own those. You can also do it in public or private EKs where those crafting stations are available. Here we see the general crafting station. Now, general crafting is something that benefits from your basic crafting skill training. In Crowfall, the way it works is you are able to experiment on the items and get better stats on the result. Here you see the components needed for the intermediate tools. One thing to note is that these tools can be made out of basic or non-basic resources. Your basic resources are things like the knotwood tree you see here, the slag ore nodes, or the cobblestone stone nodes. Those nodes are available in the beachhead, the starting area, and out in the world. The non-basic nodes are things like gold, iron, oak, and so on. Those are only available outside the starting area in the campaign world and not available in the EK either. If you make these items, the intermediate items, out of non-basic materials, as it says below, you'll see here, the resulting item will be sturdier and be, having more durability. So here we see the experimentation system. You'll notice you have four little circles or pips. Each of these represents an amount or percentage of experimentation risk. The risk basically means the chance of success or failure. There's some discussion about what the best approach is. Basically, if you invest at least 50%, there's a bonus on the result. Some people like to do one at a time, so you have more chances. Here you see I invested one pip and failed. Second one is a great success. Because I only invested one pip on that great success, the result, the improvement is less than if I had have gotten a great success on 2 pips or 4 pips of experimentation. The number of experimentation pips that you have to spend is based on your skill training, the passive skill training. The number of pips you have available to spend in terms of the number that you can actually take advantage of, here you see it's 4, is based on the quality of the material. So white, for example, will allow you to spend a certain amount. The next step up, which is green, will be more, blue will be more, and so on and so on. It is the case that eventually you can maximize that and have more pips than you're able to spend. So here you see I've created an intermediate axe and a pick. You can compare the durability and damage amounts to the basic ones. You'll see that this pick has a plus 10 to mining. That equals plus 10 additional damage per swing. So not only does the intermediate tool last longer because it has more durability, it's doing more damage per swing. So it's taking the node down more quickly. On the intermediate, you cannot increase that 10 through experimentation. However, for advanced tools, you are able to do that so much so that you can eventually get, you can approach 100 on an exceptionally rarely produced tool. Generally, a decent amount would be in the 40 to 60 area, and those types of tools are the kinds of things that you want to be using on the advanced nodes, and especially on the mother load nodes, those nodes which take 2 people to take down. So here you see the requirements for the intermediate weapons. You have these special intermediate components such as the billet for metal items. The billet does require non-basic materials. So the way the system works is, you get to explore things in safety by creating basic gear in the starting area, and then you have to venture out into the actual campaign world to create your intermediate items using the non-basic materials, since those are not found in the starting area. So we're going to venture out in a moment and collect those materials. This is the starting area here, what's called the beachhead. You see the crypt where you can change vessels to the north in this case, and this light in the distance, the pillar of light, designates the rune gate, which allows you to access the main campaign world. Now, before we do that, I'm just going to head over to a set of training dummies. There are dummies here that allow you to do some basic testing to get damage numbers, see how your powers work, and so on. There are dummies which are used for healing, that you can heal, that are friendly to your faction, and then dummies which are hostile to your faction, or red, that you can do damage powers on. Just to test these before we make the intermediate gear, so we can get some damage number comparisons and see exactly how much of an improvement and how more effective you will be by taking the time to make these intermediates. Now, keep in mind that this gear is basic, so these damage numbers, even with basic, are not what you would typically expect. I also have no supporting training, as we saw in the previous video, in the race or class passive skill trees, so the numbers are quite a bit lower. Again, we're going to see the dramatic change in numbers going from basics to intermediates rather. And intermediate, as I've said, I think in previous videos, if you get really good results, they can be as good as an extremely poor result advanced. One of the things about Crowfall in release and when there's a server wipe is that with no training which unlocks the recipes, you cannot even make advanced gear. There is a situation in natural gameplay where everybody has no possible way to make advanced weapons, not gear or armor, which means that you have the whole server running around in basics, or after the first hour or first 30 minutes or so, intermediates, which results in a much longer time to kill, and you have an issue with certain classes being more effective than others with lower quality weapons. It's an interesting situation that we don't know how it's going to play out necessarily in release, where you will have some classes that can be played, but they're not very effective in the context of the low gear environment. So you'll see, a whole bunch of druids, say, running around, and very few knights, perhaps, or Templars, or so on, that benefit from the better gear. So in order to go to the campaign world, you have to exit the beachhead starting area through the rune gate. The rune gate is up on this mesa here. The layouts of the different factions starting areas are slightly different, but in this case, you can just go directly from the dummy area. Hopefully this will be of use to you guys, creating the intermediate tools. Next up in part 2 of this episode, we are going to be creating the intermediate gear. We're getting close to the cool stuff. First look at the campaign world. I hope you enjoy it, and that is the Bloody Point.